Hello, friends. This is Amy Calandrina. Welcome back to the Performance Mindset Show. I'm your host, CEO of Beyond Commercial, and author of the book Perfect to Real. This show is all about leveling up in business, real estate, leadership, and life by shifting how you think, grow, and lead. Each week, I'll bring you real conversations with top performers and mindset experts who are building big lives. If you're ready to ditch perfection, trust your path, and grow with intention, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe. And let's get to it. So today I have with me Nick Huber. He is the co-founder, investor, and partner in several companies that include Bold CEO, AdRhino, WebRun, Titan Risk, the Huber Method, SpiteX, and a business and real estate brokerage that Nick actually started with his dad, Tim. In total, his businesses do over $30 million in annual revenue and employ over 325 people. Alongside his portfolio of businesses, he's a content creator and has about 800,000 followers across the channels. His content has received over more than 2 billion views in the last few years. And outside of all of his business work, he likes golf, hunting, mountain biking, history, fishing, travel, sports, and spending time outside with his friends and family. So welcome to the show.
Amy, thanks for having me. That's you nailed it.
Only done this a few times. I'm almost to episode 100, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. So I really enjoyed reading the book, and I think it takes a different tack than a lot of business books take, where it's all about, immediately, kind of going out there in scaling, and yours kind of talks about not really necessarily reinventing the wheel, but maybe, considering another business that already exists and then, kind of building from there and, thereby growing from there. So to kind of talk a little bit about your background and how you've kind of got to where you're at today.
Yeah, I small town kid from Southern Indiana, grew up in the country. Mom was a school nurse. My dad worked for a developer and went to school at Cornell to run track and field. Met my wife there, Michelle. Met my business partner there, Dan, two of the most influential people in my life. We started a moving and storage company while we were in college called Storage Squad. 2015, we realized that wasn't the business that was going to take us where we wanted to go. So we built our first self-storage facility from the ground up and got in the real estate business. Very shortly realized that real estate is a much better business in general. And we made a plan to kind of double down on that, grow that business. And did that over the next several years, ended up selling Storage Squad in 2021, early 2021. And then, the rest is history. Kind of got involved in somewhere.com, got involved in RE Costseg around that time, started a couple of those other businesses that you mentioned. And Bolt Storage is now pretty big. We have 2 million square feet of self-storage, 60 something properties. And it's been a heck of a ride.
I love when businesses become their own landlord and have their own space. And I think that building of your equity thereby makes so many other things possible to build a portfolio, and that equity is key. Is that what you have found?
I think the beautiful thing about real estate is the tax efficiency and time. If you can buy a decent piece of real estate and you can take good care of it, keep it clean, keep it leased, care for it. Sometimes it's not even that much work to do that. And 10 years go by, amazing things happen. We're coming up on 10 years since we built our first building. We still own it. I've never sold a piece of real estate yet to this day. And it's been pretty life-changing what can happen when you hold on to good real estate for a long time.
Well, I remember in the book, you actually talked about someone who came to buy the building, and that kind of segues into maybe like one of the lessons that you have in the book, which is very similar to one of my takeaways. Is I personally have a no asshole policy, and the story of the person that wanted to buy your property. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that has been paramount in your continual growth professionally?
Yeah, I think life is all about leverage. Business is all about leverage. And in my opinion, what is leverage? Leverage is having the fewest amount of people possible who can make a decision that impacts your life in a negative way. most people have one person who, if they decide that they don't need you at your job anymore and you get fired, 2 weeks, 4 weeks later, you can't pay your bills and you can't feed your family. That's one person who has a heck of a lot of control and leverage over you. So when they ask you to do something, you pretty much have no choice, right? They start acting crazy. You pretty much have no choice. Everybody's worked. A lot of people, unfortunately, have worked for that really bad boss that makes it brutal. So in my opinion, entrepreneurship and business is all about getting leverage. And the person with the capital, the person with the skills, the person with the equity has the leverage. And so if you get to a point where you have multiple income streams or one big income stream or enough cash in the bank to take care of yourself, and you don't have any partners that control you, investors that control you, and people that can tell you what to do and how to live, life gets a little bit better when you're not dependent on the whims and emotions of another person. So yeah, in my opinion, early in the days of a business entrepreneur, you have to do things you don't want to do for people that you don't want to be around. You have to. I spent a lot of time on the phones with asshole customers, asshole vendors, asshole investors, whatever it was, because I needed them more than they needed me. And as time went on, as momentum built, and as my businesses became healthier and larger, I was able to, stop working with assholes.
Well, I think that there is a difference between being on like a continual treadmill, like you talk about this, hot dog eating contest, which a lot of businesses are. And so there's a difference between being on a treadmill and momentum. I think building the momentum, you're building this trajectory, you're building this wealth, you're building this, cash flow versus what many businesses get on a treadmill. And, they think they're going, but they're just running in place.
My fear, as I do a lot of media, I do a lot of teaching of coaching about business, and look, it's so nuanced. And business, as you know, Amy, as I know, it's so hard. Business will humble you, it will tear you down. Things never go your way. You'll have uncomfortable situation after uncomfortable situation. You'll always have stress, no matter how high level you play the game. My fear with all the media, the book, all this pro entrepreneurship stuff is that a lot of people end up 5, 10 years in or 20 years in, and they don't actually own an asset or a business. They own a job, and they're working nonstop, and they're bending over backwards for customers, and they can't get out, and they're trapped. They can't go on vacation. They can't stop. That ends up happening to a lot of business owners for sure. So my book is kind of about how to operate and how to execute and how to not find yourself in that situation, but still, it's really hard. So I don't think it's for everybody. That's for sure.
I agree with you. It's a lot about your book, but in my personal experience, why I got into commercial real estate is I worked in my husband's law firm. He's a business and real estate attorney, and I found a couple of different patterns. There was two types of entrepreneurs. There's more the growth-minded, entrepreneur that has a plan, often owns their own real estate. They go to sell their business later on, and they have two assets. One is the business that they own, and the second is the real estate that they own. And they can have the choice to either sell the property to someone else as an investment because they have an in-place person, or they can sell the real estate to the person that bought their business, or they can lease the property to that person. And they basically, created two wealth vehicles, right?
Yep.
The second type of business that I saw coming in, and it broke my heart, was those that made like poor space decisions and basically become an employee, kind of like what you speak to. And they basically were working behind the counter at a smoothie shop and like working to pay the rent. They couldn't even afford to have employees. And yeah, they had like no flexibility. So I think being strategic, putting the sweat in where it's needed, but then also having some vision and again, building that momentum rather than being basically in either leasehold servitude or being like trapped. Entrepreneurship can shackle you if you're not strategic and build it in a meaningful way. And that's what I took from your book. And that's why I'll have a bunch of it for my clients, which I only work with growth-minded entrepreneurs, by the way. So
I think the interesting thing about real estate, especially real estate for retail and businesses that operate in local towns, which I love these businesses, by the way, I think real estate ends up absorbing a lot of the value that a business produces.
Oh.
So if you're not, I think the better the business, the more it can afford to pay in rent. And the building that business requires, the value goes up. Because if that business leaves, another business that's doing the same thing can come in. That's why real estate on Times Square in Manhattan is worth so much money because you can make a lot of money there, and then the real estate absorbs a lot of it, right? Whereas in Erie, Pennsylvania, the rent's a lot lower because the profitability of these spaces are not as high and the profitability of the businesses are not as high. So all that to say, if you don't own the real estate, you're going to be chasing rent and they're going to be taking a massive cut of your profits forever. So it's a tough balance.
Well, and I call it when it comes time to renew your leases, I call it a coronation if you haven't been strategic about it and you've let yourself like run out of runway. And basically you're one of those people that, people are
no leverage.
I can't believe this business is closing down. Well, yeah, they didn't get out ahead of it.
Yep.
And they pretended like everything was going to be, they had no leverage, like we just talked about.
Multiple types of leverage. And when somebody else controls the lease and you have to have the building, not a good situation, and you don't have a whole lot of leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. What I thought was really interesting is you talked a lot about it, and I think they've used this terminology in NASA before, is a price, speed, and quality. You have to pick two for your competitive advantage. And I think they said back in NASA, it was like faster, better, cheaper, pick two, kind of like the same kind of thing. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah,
and how that can vary from each business?
This is one of the big ideas of the book. I think entrepreneurship in general, people get really sucked into where am I going to find my opportunity? Where am I going to get my competitive advantage? And they go and they start thinking about new ideas. They start thinking about new products. They start thinking about moats. They start thinking about scalability. If you walk down any street in America and ask a random person, what does entrepreneurship mean to you? They'll rattle off names like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and they'll talk about Shark Tank, and they'll talk about Silicon Valley and new ideas and venture capital and revolutionary things. In my opinion, all that is wrong. And the people who are building wealth in this world, the wealth that you can't necessarily see on TV or on social media, but the people in our towns who have wealth, they all started normal old-fashioned businesses and picked one of those three ways to carve out a piece of a pie that was already existing. Meaning they're going to do things more affordably, they're going to do things better, or they're going to do things faster. One of those things in an existing business is how you find opportunity to grow a healthy, successful company. And I'm sure, Amy, in your life and all the tenants that you work with, it's very similar, right? The best businesses that you see and the people who are generating $20,000, $30,000 a month from their companies, very few of them are revolutionary. Many of them have just found a way to out-execute in one of those three areas.
Well, I mean, my hairdresser has shared it on my podcast. I mean, he gets that per month, per location. And people are like, wait, what is he doing developing this 17,000 square foot center? And I'm like, he made smart decisions. He owns his own commercial real estate. He was able to, and it's not revolutionary. He's just created a model that's luxury within reach. He's not trying to go and do a money grab for $700 when someone goes in and gets their hair. He's just trying to provide, great service at a great price. One thing that he does different is W-2 versus 1099, which gives him a lot of control. Yep. So he's got like 60 employees, 2 locations, working on the next few. But I think you don't have to reinvent things. You can just build a better mousetrap. I think you even talk about sometimes a Franken business is, grabbing different components of various businesses to build something better.
That's the backbone of a sweaty startup. So I think when you go into a business that is existing, right, whether it's plumbing, HVAC, lawn care, pressure washing, hairstyling, sprinkler install, fire suppression systems, any business, there's going to be a lot of competition that's existing, and they're going to be out there making money right now. You're not going to go into a business unless there's people in the game making money. The beautiful thing about that is that you get to study those businesses. You get to look at them. Somebody who wants to start a hairdressing business or a chain of, hairstylists, great clips, anything like that, they get to go study these models and look at how it's done. They get to look at how much they charge. They get to look at whether they put their employees on 1099s or W-2s. They get to look at the type of real estate, how they build out their buildings, how they find their customers, what type of customers there are. And when you look at a business and how it operates, you get to kind of make decisions about what you like and what you don't like. So when we started our first company, we looked at the 10 companies that were out there doing what we were doing, and we just kind of took the best parts of each business. We liked how one business gave away free boxes. We liked how another business was really efficient with their pickups. We liked another business's website and value proposition. We liked another business's pricing, and we combined it all together. We innovated by, doing a couple things different, couple things new, but for the most part, we copied what was working. And I think that's a beautiful thing about this, doing a sweaty startup, is that you can build a Franken business by taking bits and pieces of different companies, bolting them together, and building something that is, can carve out a piece of the pie and make you a good living.
When you can do a lot of that intelligence, not only for building the business, but also even market feasibility easily by going to someone's website. I think you have you do have a matrix in your book, and I think it's like probably 5 columns, and it's, what is their general price? How quickly did they answer the phone? What is their Google reviews?
Yep.
And
are they running digital marketing? And then what's the dollar amount per man hour they're charging for their actual service? So when I'm analyzing an opportunity, there's a framework in chapter 4 to how to spot an opportunity and how to figure out if it's worth doing. How hungry is the sales team if you call their line? Do they answer the phone? How good is their website at capturing your data? How good is their follow-up? Are they running digital marketing? What are their Google reviews? And then most importantly, how busy are they? How quickly can they come out and do the work that you need them to do? And then once you start to talk to these contractors or service providers, you can actually get a really good feel for how much they're charging per hour. Go in to get your hair cut. How long were you there? How much money did you give them? What do you think they used in materials to do your hair? Let's do this exercise together, Amy. You go in to get your hair done. What are you going to pay? $150?
I don't get my hair colored anymore, so I only get a haircut and a blow dry. So about $90, I think, is the charge, including.
Okay, so the materials virtually none. But how long are you in there for that cut and dry?
30 to 45 minutes. 45 minutes.
Okay, so let's say they are able to do that. One hairdresser's doing 5 appointments per day if you count downtime, travel, in 8 hours. 5 appointments in 8 hours.
Yeah.
So 5 times $90. That's $450 per seat that hairdresser's running, right? And then tips, you tip her $20 right on the job, probably, or 15.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she's getting paid maybe $15 an hour plus another 15 or 20 in tips per hour, making $40 an hour all in. She's making a great living, $80,000 a year. Your business owner's making $450 a day off that seat, paying her $150 or $100.
Yeah. He says most of his hairdressers get somewhere around 70, 80, 90, just like you said, and it's a good living for them. Some obviously services are different. If they're doing the coloring and they're doing the processing, then they can take someone else. But just like you just were able to take one service and then kind of extrapolate what it probably is. And same thing I did. I had some trees removed here at my house. 2 guys showed up. They were here for 4 hours. They billed me almost $4,000. Obviously, they had some very expensive equipment to go in and grab these trees and cut them off and do all this stuff. But it's not mental gymnastics to realize they're charging me over $100 per man hour, and those guys on the trucks are probably making $80,000 a year. So that's how you kind of figure out if an opportunity has the margin to build a good business. When I think that would be a reasonable rate, in Orlando or in Athens, probably, similar, pricing, that you're going to have a quality person too. If you don't have enough, if you're going to have to pay someone $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in basically minimum wage, then that might not be a viable business as well.
They're not going to show up. They're going to, mess stuff up. They're going to drop a tree on somebody's house and cause $30,000 worth of damage. It's very high risk to have incompetent employees on some of these jobs.
Yeah. And then one thing we talked a lot about was, and I love the story too, is how you went to these different competitions. You had a lot of the critiques that you did, and they've asked you to come back.
I used to get invited to fill people in. I tell the good thing about the Sweaty Startup book is that I tell a lot of stories. There's probably 30 or 40 stories in there. My goal, but most books, they'll have a point or a concept per chapter, and then they'll spend the rest of the time repeating themselves and telling stories. I try to have 5 or 6 points and 5 or 6 stories per chapter to deliver key concepts. It's pretty concise and punchy, but I used to get invited to these entrepreneurship competitions at University of Georgia. I'm here in Athens. And they'd say, "Oh, Nick, you're a business guy. Come in here, sit on the panel, And then our entrepreneurs at the end of the semester are going to come in, they're going to pitch their idea, they're going to talk about all the work they've done and how they're going to build their business, right? And let's just say it didn't go very well, and I don't get invited back to do those, to judge those pitch competitions, because every entrepreneur bought into this, mental trap of, hey, I need to change the world. I need to have a new idea. I need a new market. I need to flip a business model on its head. I need to revolutionize a business model. And one of them hit on the recruiting business, which I know. And he was pitching about how, the recruiting business doesn't make any sense. Companies are going to spend, 20, 30% of year one salary to find somebody. Why would you ever spend $20,000 to $30,000 to make a hire? It's all a mess. I'm going to build a marketplace where for $19 a month, employees can apply, companies can post jobs, and then they have their problem solved for $19 a month instead of $30,000. My hand raised up. And I was like, hey, did you know there's over 50 companies in America that do over 100 million a year of revenue doing the model that you just said is not very good? He's like, well, no, I didn't know that. And I was like, okay, would you rather make $19 or $30,000 as an entrepreneur? Which one would you prefer? And he's like, well, it just doesn't make any sense. Like the market, and he just starts going in a mental loop about how the business model's broken. And I told him basically straight up, like, hey man, you're trying to change something that doesn't need changed. It's proven to work. I don't get it. Like, do you dislike money? What do you dislike about the model? And just didn't go well.
Well, in recruiting, the way the model is set up, even to get someone that's high quality, let's say they're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and you're trying to recruit for that high, they're not going to put themselves on a $19 a month website and let the whole world know, hey, I'm not happy here. It's going to take some really super skilled recruiter that's been trained, that studies this and knows the psychology and all the different things to get this. Yeah. But I think you do people a favor. I always tell people, I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I may tell you things that you don't want to hear, but I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. And if I don't think something's going to work, then I'm going to tell you. If you want someone to make you feel very good and everything's sunshine rainbow, I am not the right broker for you. I think the way entrepreneurs think about business is that they are the gladiator in their arena, right? They're Russell Crowe. The odds are against them. They have to overcome against all odds to build the next Apple, Facebook, whatever it is. So they're in the valley and they're looking up at the tallest mountains and saying, I want to climb that mountain. It's treacherous, it's tall, it's hard, but at the top, there's $1 billion exit. I flip that on its head and I'm on top of the mountain and I have a water hose and I turn on that water hose. That water is going to find the path of least resistance to get to the bottom. Going to find the easiest way to do it. In business, it's not about doing hard things. You don't get extra points or extra money for doing hard things. It's not an Olympic gymnastics routine where you got to have a certain degree of difficulty to make it work. Warren Buffett says, you can get paid really well to jump over 1 foot bars over and over and over again. So why do things the hard way? My goal, my philosophy, and one of the big points of the Sweaty Startup is to look at the market unemotionally. It's not about you. It's not about what you want to do. It's not about status. It's not about what you love. It's about finding the best opportunity and the lowest risk approach to accomplish your goals. And I think too many entrepreneurs get confused about the big stuff, the sexy stuff. And what takes a lot of time, and there's a time value of money and opportunity cost investing in these ideas that they don't have a high likelihood of succeeding. Yes, there are some unique cases, but generally, if you're wanting to build wealth and you're wanting to be meaningful business, you talk a lot about red ocean versus blue ocean and playing against LeBron James or the fifth grade girl. I mean, that's my editor wanted me to take that out of the book, and I refused because I think the concept is true. In business, you get to pick your competition. You get to pick it. You literally have you have a choice of opportunity out there. Right.
And you can do anything you want to do. Your time is chips in front of you. And you're a poker player. And your time is chips. You're investing time into everything that you go after. You have to think strategically about what your odds are of return. Do you want to go play, let's say there's a basketball game and the winner gets $30,000 a month of income. That's a healthy business, right? $300,000 a year, that's all the money that 99% of people could ever spend or use or need to do the things they want to do. The winner of the basketball game gets that. You going to play LeBron James or are you going to play a fifth grade girl? I'm playing basketball against the 5th grade girl every single time. When me and my business partner realized that Storage Squad was not the business that was going to give us the wealth we wanted, we said, hey, where are the dumb people making money? No, really, like where are the people who are not, that don't try very hard? Of course, they've made good choices, and of course, they're good operators. I'm not trying to demean them. But in general, where are the people who don't have to work very hard making the most money? We were like water. We were trying to find the path of least resistance to accomplish our goals. We realized real quick that real estate and self-storage was an area where we weren't going to be competing against Stanford grads and venture capital and computer scientists.
Well, who's out there golfing on a Tuesday morning, or, who's like hanging out at, the local bar at like 3 and just hanging out and having a good life? 9 times out of 10, those people own real estate. I mean,
yeah. One of my favorite exercises.
I'm not surprised when I go golfing with my ladies. Like I do, I'm in a 9-hole golf league. I'm not shocked when they tell me, oh yeah, I'm part of a family office and we own $50 million worth of real estate. No wonder. And she's like, oh yeah, I just got back from Paris, or I just did this. And that's a fact of the matter.
I think one of my best practices, a lot of college students come to me and say, hey, what career should I go after? I was like, okay, well, look down the hall at what it looks like to win the game you're about to play. If you're going to go to med school, go and look at what the life is like of a 30-year-old MD doctor. Go look at the life of a 35-year-old, 40-year-old, 45, 50-year-old, 55-year-old MD. Like, just look at their life. What's it like on a day-to-day basis? You want to go to law school? What's an attorney's life like at 30, 35, 40, 45, 50? A lot of times you'll run into these 50-year-old lawyers who are rich as hell. They got the beach house in the Outer Banks. They got the Range Rover. They got the Escalade. They got the condo. They got whatever they need. But they work 60 hours a week. They're overweight. They're unhealthy. They're divorced. They're an alcoholic. Whatever it might be. Their relationships, they're leaving a wake of broken relationships in their past. And look, that's not everybody. But we're playing the odds. We're playing the odds. What does it look like on average? So look down the hall, figure out what it does. And a part of that is going to the country club. I love the exercise of, hey, go to the nicest country club in your town that they let you in the gate. So some of them, they won't let you in the gate, but go to the nicest country club in your town that's ungated and sit in the parking lot. Tuesday at 11 a.m. and watch the F-150s pull up and watch the Escalades pull up and the Denali's. And just when people get out of their car, walk up to them and ask them what they do. Hey, what do you do? And then go do that stuff.
I think you have a new content series for me, Nick. And then you're going to see me get thrown out of.
Maybe that's bad advice because
no, it's not.
A lot of country clubs don't appreciate
figure out what people figure out what people do. And I realized that I had a period in my business, and the whole part of me pivoting and getting more heavy into real estate was I realized that what I was building wasn't going to work. I was just basically managing people, all day. I was trying to build this large commercial real estate brokerage, and I was leveraging it on people that if I trained them, then they'd leave and go to another brokerage, or, it didn't work. And so I had to kind of change. You have to change things and figure out where are you actually going to build wealth and build the life that you desire. So.
Yep.
I love your 4 truths. You can't do it alone. You can't make anyone do anything. And every single person in this world is selfish, and it isn't about you.
Yeah, it sounds bad to say that everyone in the world is selfish. That's the most important truth. And all the other 3 are kind of along those same lines. But literally every single person in this world is selfish. Luckily, we live in a world where 2 people who are selfish can get together and abundance can be created where both people win.
Yes.
That happens all the time in capitalism, in life, in relationships, in friendships, in every area of life. But Amy, you and I are friends because we make each other better. We think about the world the same way. You are not going to be my friend if I am bringing you down and always negative and not bringing anything to the table. My wife is married to me because she's selfish, because I can provide for her more than another man that she thought she could have got. And I'm more fun to be around, and I can do things. I can bring something to the table, right? My business partner is my partner because he's selfish, because the money he sends me every single month in distributions is less than the value I add to the company. Period. If that was not the case, If the company sent me more money every month than value I added back to the company, our partnership would not work and it would dissolve because everybody's selfish. So if you walk around the world looking at it that way, everybody's selfish. Even the mentor, the entrepreneur who is meeting you for lunch and letting you pick their brain is selfish. They want something out of it. They want to see you go. They want to have an engaging conversation. They want to feel good about themselves. They want to see you go do something. They want to see you take action. Every single person is selfish. You give to charities because it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Every single action. So the quicker you realize that as an entrepreneur, the quicker you're able to look at the world and realize, hey, this isn't about me. Nobody cares what I think. Nobody cares what I want. Nobody cares what I'm good at. I have to literally look at the lens of how I can add the most value to other people to get them to do what they want to do. And it just happens that they might want to work for me or they might want to buy from me. I might be able to add value to them. But that's a mindset shift that could massively benefit most people making that realization.
No, I've always realized it, but not in that plane of terms. And it was interesting. I ended up with some interesting conversations in the week after that. And I'm like, yep, Nick's right. People are selfish. That's why this is happening. So I thought what was interesting was recording your sales conversations to study the tape. And I hadn't really ever thought of that to do that. Can you speak to how you came up with that idea? And
most people who are professional athletes will watch game film. Most people who are trying to get better at golf will go get a golf lesson where a pro looks at you swing a golf club and tells you what to do differently to hit the ball better, right? All areas of life, we get coaching, training, help to improve, except for one of the most important skills in life, which is sales. So, but the same concept applies to sales. I have Fathom. It's a AI note taker that's in every meeting of mine. And it's in every meeting of all my employees, all my sales reps, everybody, everything is recorded. And therefore I can go in and A, figure out who's doing their job and who's not, and B, help myself and all my employees improve at sales through very direct coaching. And, talk about the evolution of a business. And as an entrepreneur, sales is at the very top of the list. If you can improve your sales conversion metrics, everything at the company improves, everything in life improves. So yeah, it's a no-brainer practice.
Well, and having a culture in your organization that people are used to having that type of direct type of coaching. I sometimes call my company more of an organization because I want to have more of that sports team kind of mentality that we can give each other feedback. I don't even mind, feedback. Like if you think I could have handled something better, I don't want to have, I think you actually write about that in your book too. You don't want to have a yes person, in your organization. So
having a bunch of people who can challenge me and are not afraid to stand up and tell me if they think a decision I'm making is wrong. And look, it's not everybody at the company, but it's my trusted people, has saved me a lot of money over the years.
Yeah. And of course, my show is all about mindset. So I would be remiss if we don't spend a little bit of time chatting about that and having an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset on everything except for time. So can you talk a lot about how your mindset, how you build your mindset and about your mindset, but then how come you bifurcate that when it comes to time and have
I think it's back to
time.
Yeah, it falls hand in hand with the conversation around everybody being selfish.
Yeah.
It's a healthy thing because when two people come together who are both selfish, they can have more together. Basically, 1 + 1 in business and life does not equal 2. It equals 3 sometimes, and it equals 1 sometimes if things go poorly, right? So if you can create a bunch of environments where it's win-win, interactions, relationships, entrepreneurial endeavors, sales environments where it's win-win, both sides can gain and more is created. And with opportunity, with relationships, with money, there's abundance. There's literally unlimited amounts of money and opportunity and potential gain from relationships in the world. If I spend all my money, if I go broke, I live in America. I'm not going to have a social credit score that's ruined and I can never borrow money again like in Asia, right? I can rebuild. And if my friend making money does not keep me from making money, right? It creates opportunity. So I think that abundance mindset is something that very few people actually have. They get jealous. They think, hey, if somebody else winning means I'm losing. And that's a very unhealthy way to go about life and business. But the only thing that's not abundant and unlimited is your time.
Yeah.
I have the same amount of time in a day and a week and a year than Elon Musk has. Maybe he sleeps less, so he actually has a little bit more time than me. But like, so people will, it's a weird concept that my neighbor can come to my front door and ask me for $100 to go spend at the bar on beers. And I'd be like, hell no, like that's weird. Get out of here. But my neighbor can come up and chat my ear off and knock on my door and chat my ear off about things that I don't know or care about for 30 minutes. And I'll sit there and nod along and let him take 30 minutes of my time, which is far more valuable than $100. So why do a lot of people have the mindset that, hey, I'm gonna be very scarce and, worry about my money, but I'm gonna play video games for 5 or 6 hours a day and never get that time back?
Well, it's interesting when it comes to an abundance versus a scarcity mindset. I've always believed, just because there's so much opportunity in Orlando, there's so much opportunity in Athens, there's so much opportunity throughout like America. But I have had people that have interviewed at my organization, have come from other brokerages, and they've shared some of the things that have been said by their bosses about me. And it's like, I can't believe Amy has all that, and she's doing well. And I'm like, who cares? Like, you go represent your people. I represent my people. We all can win. There's plenty for all of us. Like, why are you spending your time worried about me? So,
yep. It's the scarcity versus abundance mindset.
But yeah, I find that I think time is really important. And so if someone is sucking your time and keeping you from getting to your sleep or whatever, I think that's interesting to have more of a scarcity mindset on that.
100%.
So I want to end with this thought. So again, you talked about, if everything goes, that you talked about the worst case scenario. So when you're making decisions, of course, you're trying to make them strategically. You don't want to get into analysis paralysis, all those kinds of things. But you do ultimately have to make a decision. You have to move forward. But one of the ways that maybe can give you motivation to do that is by running through the worst case scenario. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, look, business is really hard. And I tell a lot of those stories in the book about super stressful situations where employees are messing things up, warehouses are flooding, vehicles are crashing, we're running out of money on a construction project, all these things that can tear you down as a business owner. Like just make you feel like you are 1 inch tall and that you don't want to be there and that you don't want to be in business anymore. And many times you're making decisions and you start to get really afraid of that worst case scenario and what could happen. And it can hold you back. It can create analysis paralysis. It can keep you from seizing opportunities. It can keep you from making decisions at all, which is sometimes even worse than making a decision too quickly in the wrong one. So what I like to do, and what I've done a lot in my career, is a practice called fear setting. This was popularized by Tim Ferriss in the 5-Hour Workweek, which is one of my favorite books. But you basically realize, and you do the mental exercise of literally writing down. This is not thinking about. This is writing down in bullet points the worst possible outcome from a decision that you're about to make. If I go start this company, what is the worst possible outcome? If I fire this employee, what is the worst possible outcome? If I hire this person, if I make this investment, if I do this development, whatever it might be. And you write it down. Like, hey, okay, I did fear setting when we built our first self-storage facility in 2015. Okay, we spend $1.7 million on this building. We don't lease it up. We can't pay our debt service. We go bankrupt. That's the worst case scenario. Okay, well, what happens then? Take it a step further. Where are you at then? Okay, well, I only have about $500,000 to my name anyway, so that would be gone. But I don't own a home. I don't have kids that are in school. I don't have cars that they can take or default on. I don't have any. Like, I would move in with my parents. I'd move into their basement. That was at the bottom. Like, move into basement, start over. Okay, well, I had a business that was successful. A pick up and delivery storage business that was successful. I have the experience of building a self-storage facility. I'd probably go get a job for $100,000 a year. So do I do it? And I did it. I did it, and that building created millions of dollars of wealth for me. But I looked at it on paper of parents' basement. And I was like, I've lived in my parents' house before. That's not too bad. I'd get dinner every night.
Yeah. It is interesting. My husband likes to tease me about the buildings that we didn't buy. Maybe, I didn't start investing for myself until maybe 7 years ago, but 5 years before that, maybe 12 years before that, we had opportunities, and I thought of things more emotionally rather than analytically. And, I finally, with experience of having the business and all those kinds of things, I switched to much more of an analytical type of framework and thinking. But he likes to tease me about the buildings we didn't buy and how much more money we would have had. But, say la vie, now it becomes much more easier with the reps that you have as well in entrepreneurship. So
yeah, business is all about momentum. I guess a parting word is that if I could leave your audience with one thing, and it's definitely a concept in my book, is don't have too much ego or too much pride to start really small. Trade your time for money. Do things that your friends are going to laugh at. I've been laughed at. Do things that people aren't going to think is groundbreaking or revolutionary or going to amount to anything. Go trade your time for $20 an hour, then $50 an hour, then $100 an hour. Then you buy that asset. Then you get some equity in a business, and momentum is a really beautiful thing in entrepreneurship, because you're not only acquiring a little bit of cash along the way if things are going well, but you're acquiring the skills, you're acquiring the ability to delegate, the ability to sell, the ability to lead, you're acquiring a network, and all those things compound. Entrepreneurship is a snowball rolling down a hill. So if you'd have told me 10 years ago, 2015, middle of 2015, I was at a town meeting trying to get our first self-storage facility permitted. I had less than $250,000 to my name because me and my partner together had $500K. And a couple of weeks after that, I was sleeping in a warehouse doing box deliveries in downtown Boston, hoofing 60-pound boxes upstairs on Bay State Road in Cambridge, in Boston. If you'd have told me that 10 years later, we'd have 63 self-storage facilities, that I would be the majority owner of somewhere.com, that we would have RE Cost Seg with 55 employees now pushing $750K a month of revenue, and these other entrepreneurial endeavors that are developing, and that a book was coming out, and that I was here talking to you on this podcast. If you'd have told me that, I would have said, you are out of your mind. But it's unbelievable what time can do.
But here we are. Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's funny how we came full circle. So what is the best way for folks to get a hold of you or your team?
I have a page on my website that's the most visited page on my website. It's a list of about 300 sweaty startups, all the business ideas from cleaning stuff to repairing stuff to moving stuff to building stuff. That's people can dip their toe into what I'm all about by looking at that. It's sweatystartup.com/ideas. And if you want to spend 20 or $30, you can buy the book. We'll put a link down there. It's called The Sweaty Startup: How to Get Rich Doing Boring Things. And I look at all my Twitter DMs, and my email is nick@sweatystartup.com. So I'm pretty accessible.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you joining us, and good luck on the book. And hopefully we'll see each other in real life soon too. So
I'm sure we will. Thank you so much, Amy. I love the message. My audience is your audience. Let me know if you need anything. And I appreciate you reading the book and supporting. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I want to say to my audience, thanks again for listening to the show. If today's episode gave you something to think about, please be sure to share and subscribe it so you don't miss what's coming out next. You want to go deeper, grab my book, From Perfect to Real. It's all about dropping perfection and thriving your way. You can also connect with me at beyondcommercial.com or amycalandrino.com. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and keep showing up for you. This is Amy Calandrino, signing off.